How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VGWProductions.com and YouTube.com. The favorite show hosts are still
Venerian.
And Volacel, who has Ice Blight.
Yay!
And we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. And where are all my nullberries? Now, first of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord channel, which you can most easily access by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on the No Excuses logo in any of our recent show posts, which should take you directly to our Discord server where you can chat with the show hosts and other listeners to the show in real time.
Yes.
I really feel like there should be a better way of getting to the Discord server than that. But when I try to think about how I would distribute the details to our Discord server, my first thought was, I'll just give it to them on Discord. But there's a fundamental problem with that. Some pretty serious issues with that strategy, in fact.
Yeah, there is a noticeable flaw in that strategy.
But it's true. I do use it for pretty much everything now.
Yeah, it's kind of all-consuming and all-devouring.
Yeah, I suppose it's just a mercy that Steam got on board that one too late.
Yeah. I still like a way for Steam, just to say, I don't want Steam to tell people what I'm playing.
That would be convenient.
Yeah, there's too many times I can fire up a game and suddenly there's three people all trying to talk to me at the same time.
Usually I'm one of them and I'm complaining about it.
Yes, you are.
Because, I mean, you're not helping me hunt monsters.
I know. So, on that strain, I am not helping Volacel harass a Legiana by the sound of it. I'm going to be playing a little bit of Dawn of Man on the stream, and this ties into my week. So, before
People have been saying that's a pretty chill game.
It is incredibly chill. It's very relaxing up until the point where, your village get eaten by mountain lions.
I see.
So Dawn of Man is a game where you start off in the Stone Age with a little handful of villagers, and you have to build your village up and not die. I think we should actually getting close to a point where we just start calling this a subgenre now, sort of a survival city builder. Like, you got Banish, you got Frostpunk, you got all sorts of other things like that, and now you've got Dawn of Man. But yeah, it's rather slow paced. You can just set it to a nice relaxed speed and just poke away at it, and inevitably if you walk away you'll come back and everyone's been eaten by mountain lions, but these things happen. So yeah, I'll play
How did humanity get out of the stage of being eaten by mountain lions?
By building better and pointier sticks. That's pretty much it. Is just improved pointy stick technology.
So what is the pinnacle of this?
I believe it actually stops around the beginning of the Iron Age. So the wheel gets invented. Can I actually look at the tech tree? Hang on. Let me just look at the end. Yeah, you go to the Iron Age here. So the top of the tech tree is actually steel. So you get steel tools. Basic hydropower, so water mills, things like that. Reinforced fortification, actual baking. Yeah, and that's where your progression stops. But you start in the Paleolithic. So you have a rock and a stick. And that's it.
They're not even in the same place.
No, they're not. Ugh, this is a pretty rubbish start location, by the way. Ugh.
Like every start location I've ever gotten.
It's so tiny. So yeah, I haven't played too much of this yet. So I've played through the tutorial and had a little bit of a faff around afterwards, but we'll see how this goes. I'm expecting horrible mountain lion eating to be happening. Let me see. Marks and Flint. There we go. The other game I played this week, aside from a bit of Monster Hunter, where I managed to put together my melee gun lance build at long last, because the game refuses to give me the gems I need to actually build a proper gun lance build. I'm still salty at that Lavasioth.
not getting gems is sort of like the entire end game until it becomes not getting augments.
Yeah. Them streamstones. Got to get them streamstones.
Yeah, let me tell you, with EX luck, I got 1 extra attack gem
Yeah.
in my time farming them.
That is extremely good luck.
Yes. So, 1 excellent tier gem.
Yes.
Yeah, because statistically, you shouldn't get any.
Yeah. They just don't exist outside of events. So yeah, got that put together and need to actually go and hunt something properly with it. Unfortunately, for the build I'm looking at for my actual Gunlance, I need to hunt Lunastras. Lunastras are not very nice.
As someone who routinely hunts them with negative fire resist, I am in agreement that they are not nice people.
Yeah. Yeah, most of my week has actually been hunting Deviljho, which is also a lot of fun, but...
Ugh, I hate hunting Deviljho.
I don't know what
I hate hunting Deviljho.
I don't know what these Deviljho did, particularly the last two. One of them, I had a pink Rathian that would not go away. I'd dung bomb it, it would leave the zone, and it would immediately come back and start attacking the Deviljho again. So I just let it go.
Yeah, I ran into that a few times as well.
Yeah, I just let it do its thing. The second time, it was Basilgeus.
Oh, well, I mean, that's routine behavior for him.
That's just kind of his shtick. He shows up, he explodes everything, and well, there's no other step. That's all he does. So the last two pickles are at least easy enough to kill because of those. Well, easy-ish, because every time I try to get in close to do some damage, I get smacked away. I was just ignored. But, yeah, we'll see how that goes. I've got to go in and try Lunastras again, but she just doesn't play nice. I could try the Thronemaker Lunastra, I suppose, but that's got its own problems.
A big problem called Teostra and Nergigante.
The spiky boy. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lower hit point Legiana, and all three of them have lower hit points, but you're fighting
Lunastra,
three.
you mean?
Yeah, Lunastra, sorry. Yeah, so you're fighting 3 monsters at that point, and you're doing it on a time limit.
Yeah, I only barely made it. Just barely.
Yeah. So that might be an adventure for the coming week. The other game I played is a game by the name of Epic Tavern, which had a very interesting premise. The idea is you manage an adventuring tavern in what is more or less a D&D world. So you're running your tavern, you have adventurers come in, they tell stories, you get to recruit them and then send them off to do quests and things. Conceptually, very interesting. In execution, no. I refunded this one.
Wow,
It
that's
was
unusual
bad.
for you. Hey, how can you screw up Resetia crossed with Valhalla?
I know,
Yeah.
right? That's what it should have been. Capitalism ho. But it's not. It's more Facebook game meets very, very boring pub manager. So when you start the game, you do a bit of a quest, which the questing is not engaging even remotely. You're given a map. Your party is marked with a peg, or it's actually a helmet on the map, and it'll give you a text box saying, here's the story. And then you press the button that says next, and you'll get the next text box. And maybe you'll get to actually do something, in which case you press a button that says roll. So you roll the dice, and then you get the next text box. Repeat. That's it. That's the questing.
Fabulous.
You can...
This is a game?
This is a game, allegedly. You can...
I suppose this is... Go on.
Yeah, you can tweak abilities and you can equip your party members before you go, but once they're out in the field, that's the level of interaction you get.
Okay, so number one, that game exists in Neptunia as well.
Yes, and it was boring there.
Well, it's not... You don't have to do anything. You just set it going in the menu, and it goes in the background while you do other stuff.
Yes, but in this case, you can't do other stuff. That's
You
where it's locked.
play Neptunia proper, and then the dungeon crawling the little dungeon crawling girl goes off and crawls her dungeon on her own based on the gear that you've equipped her with,
Yes.
and hopefully doesn't get booted out. But the other thing is, I suppose speculatively that this is just an outgrowth of the phenomenon that we've seen over the past few years, whereby it seems to be considered the standard way that a completely fresh-faced developer cuts their teeth is by making a crappy management sim.
Yeah. But there's been crappy management sims. I haven't even actually talked about the pub management, by the way, yet. That's okay, it's equally crappy. But there's been crappy management sims which are still at least engaging and interesting. And
Well,
dare
the
I
thing
say,
is
fun.
that the veins of depth in the D&D tavern are so deep that people still use the D&D tavern like 40 years after D&D started or whatever.
Yeah.
So the idea that you can manage to screw up something with that much playing room is pretty depressing.
Mm-hmm. So, the tavern gameplay, I think, like, the questing gameplay could be forgiven if the tavern gameplay was good. Because then it becomes a little side thing you do between days. But the tavern gameplay is arguably worse. So you've got your tavern, and you're looking down into it. It's a 3D rendered tavern, at least, unlike the 2D rendered map where you get in quest mode. And you have adventurers, which are very basically designed, and they're sitting at the tables. Every now and again, one of them will get a prop-up above their head. You click said pop-up, and that's about it. They might tell you a little bit of story. You might be able to recruit them for your parties. Or they might be being needy little buggers and actually ordering something. In which case you get the order chain, or whatever they call it. Which involves clicking on other needy people in the pub. Which may or may not, based on random bullcrap, actually like what you give them.
It sounds like a really, really bad version of the Yakuza Hostess Club management game.
It could be. It could be. But that's it.
This sounds like you paid money to play for entertainment, the worst parts of your day job.
Yes. Thankfully, you don't need to deal with drunk adventurers, but it's just click a thing, and something might happen, and then you click another thing, and something might happen. At the end of the day, you go adventuring. At the end, after that, if you've made some money, you might be able to purchase an upgrade, which lets you click on things slightly more efficiently. There's no decision making. There's no exploration. There's nothing. It's just bad. Really bad. I need a good game. I need more Monster Hunter. Capcom, give us an info dump on Iceborne now. We need that. I don't know. I've seen games by just brand new newbie developers that come out. I believe actually Dawn of Man is one of them, and they're just so much better than cynical mobile game.
Well, that's because there's two different types of starting out developers, right? There's type 1, which is I have a game that I really want to make, and there's type 2, which is I want to be a game developer.
Mm-hmm. I'd rather play the product of the first one. But the problem is the second type is the one that actually tends to put stuff out.
Yeah, a lot of it. Very similar to everything to everything else, and every title that they release is also similar to every other title. It usually involves stolen assets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Steam's still full
obligatory-
of them.
Insert obligatory Team Cherry shilling here.
I know, right? Which we will come back around, but screw it. Let's just plug it now. Half price Hollow Knight for PlayStation Plus in the coming month. Go and buy it.
Yep.
Such a good game.
Scooped it.
Epic Tavern. Such a bad game. Cool concept. Like, just there's absolutely nothing there. It's just bad. Bad. So I'm going to stop raging and I'm just going to chill and watch my cavemen hopefully not die.
That's what cavemen are for.
They are. Back in those days, humans were delicious. What is that? That's a woolly right.
Yeah, I wonder if I wonder if that's really the reason that mountain lions stopped eating people, was that we just stopped being delicious at some point.
We stopped being delicious and started being pointy.
No, I mean like our flavor changed. Like we started eating different types of food because we were developing agriculture and so on, and then they realized, the mountain lions just decided, you know, they taste kind of crap these days.
Yeah. Let's go eat bacon. Alright, so I've got my little village going, I've got a house going, I've got 7 people, and nobody's died yet. I'm off to a decent start. Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of these survival building games, is sometimes you'll just get a random event that will just completely ruin your day.
I particularly don't like ones where the start conditions dictate too much about your success.
Yeah.
Like, it's like getting a bad draw in solitaire.
Yep.
Like, oh, well, there's a certain number of solitaire games that are unsolvable.
Yeah. Actually, it's quite a large number. But, yeah, sometimes you'll just get a start on these games where there's just no resources, or one specific resource is completely lacking. Or you just don't have room to expand, which might actually be the case in this one. So, yes. At least I'm not expecting, you know, Dwarf Fortress / RimWorld level shenanigans here. Like, no randomly appearing pack of killer possums. I think.
Then all of a sudden you have been eaten by a grue.
It's not dark enough for that yet. Wow, that's an old reference. Dear, oh dear. Anyway, your week, sir.
My week.
Your week.
Okay, I didn't. My week was similarly brutal to Fern's, so I didn't have a great deal of free time.
Drunk people
and
everywhere.
as the usual pattern for my days without free time, my gaming gets pretty much replaced by FGO because it's the only thing I can fit in. Because you can leave it in the middle of a match, and then come back to it 10 hours later and resume what you were doing, which is what I've done on a few occasions. So
disapproves.
when last I reported in on my progress in FGO, the challenge missions were up, and I had been completely wrecked by the top difficulty challenge. I did not know what I was going to do, how I was going to get out of this particular one. I tried a whole bunch of strategies, and my best ones resulted in, you know, inconvenient crit. That's going to throw my rhythm off, and then it'll all be over. But eventually I got it. I used can't remember what exactly I did. I think the front of my lineup was John, Arturia, Support John, Mash, Chloe, and I can't remember if there was can't remember what else was in there. But that worked quite well in the end. I got through. It took me 66 turns, but I got there. I didn't use any command seals. It was nice and stable, apart from the last phase where things started getting kind of rough. I started losing things because the too many of the enemies' hits happened to land on the same character in too many successive turns, and there's only so much you can do about that. So yeah, I got through that, and I finished that particular challenge 3 minutes after the start of maintenance, and I was beside myself with grief.
I never did actually see the end of this story.
But in the end, it turned out that despite the fact that all of the code in FGO is veritable spaghetti code, nevertheless, they have coded it sufficiently well that through a major game version change and a maintenance, you can still resume a fight where you left off when you log back in. So I only had to replay the last turn, and I was able to get the win and get my ticket.
Nice.
So yeah, I was astonished. I did not expect to be allowed to do that, to be allowed to resume the fight after a major game version change, after a maintenance in which that mission that I was on was disabled. So yeah, I got there in the end. Kudos to the developers.
Yeah.
Your resume system is very robust.
Yeah, you could have just as easily turned around and said, "No, event's over. Get out."
Which is absolutely what I expected, but
Yeah.
it wasn't what happened, and I am quite pleased. So I got that in the end. I legit completed all of the challenge quests and didn't need to use command seals for any of them,
Yay.
and I'm quite pleased. Although it wouldn't have really cost me anything to use them. I had them there. I would have been willing to use them if I got close to the end and wasn't successful. But yeah, so that monstrous 3 million hit point Artoria Altar went down.
Nice.
So after that, Shinjuku came out. I haven't finished it because I haven't had time.
How far in are you so I know where to stop at spoilers?
Let's find out. I think I've completed 15 chapters.
Okay.
I think because my way of doing each of the story chapters is usually to play a handful of chapters every night, just a few fights every night, and just make my way through a bit at a time. So progress has been pretty slow, but I've been quite enjoying it. It is definitely, a chapter which is written in introduction mode. Although I feel like a lot of parts of the writing are inelegant. Like, I think that it would have been triflingly easy to come up with a better reason to stay and try and rectify the situation in Shinjuku. It would have been easy to find a better reason than because I feel like it. And the whole exercise of dangling a hidden threat in front of you while expecting you to sort of ignore it in favor of dealing with the problem in front of you is also a little bit sloppy, but by and large it's quite an entertaining little diversion, considering the stakes of the previous story chapter were as high as stakes can get, and the stakes in this chapter are clarified pretty explicitly to be virtually non-existent aside from your own life personally. And it's sort of implied that they've got a system, a backup system being developed to force ray shift you out if you should ever need it. So the stakes are almost non-existent, but you get to tool around in this world. Basically, it's an introduction to the starting point in difficulty for the next singularity is pretty much the way it's been set up. And it is relatively difficult. I don't know if I would say that it's substantially more difficult than anything else. I think that it's probably a little bit harder than the Mesopotamia one, the Babylonia Singularity, and probably a little bit easier than Camelot. But yeah, it's definitely got some fights that can kick you in the nuts if you don't go in with the right sort of setup. I got absolutely wrecked by Avenger of Shinjuku
the
first time. Yeah, I got completely obliterated the first time and the second time. The third time, I found a stable strategy.
Puppy is like some of the puppy fights are the first time. If you're doing it blind, you have a pretty good chance of just getting rolled if you don't know what's coming.
I went in my first time and I feel like I put up a credible fight considering I didn't know what I was in for. But it was not pretty. Let's just say that. It was not pretty. But I've refrained from using Buster memes. Like, I've used my standard strategies that I always used before I had Merlin to do these fights. I'll probably pull out Buster memes for some of the last bosses because it's pretty clear to me at this point that the last boss is going to be an archer, which means probably based on previous bosses, a 1 to 2 turn Noble Phantasm loop for the enemy, meaning that I need to meme his butt down before he can murder me, most likely. So yeah, archer bosses are no fun. Same with the sand bosses. But yeah, so I'll probably end up using Buster meme teams for the latter part. But up until this point, against things where you can actually execute on a stable long-term siege strat, I've been using those. And considering Avengers and Riders and so forth have relatively long Noble Phantasm timers, I've been able to use more conventional strategies for those.
Yeah, the biggest thing that jumped out to me with this chapter was how much they've pruned out the, okay guys, we're going to go set up camp. Look, Master, skeletons, we need to fight them. all of that's been pruned out in this chapter, more so than even in Camelot or Mesopotamia. Like, there's just no random fluff you have to waste your time with.
Yeah, everything is a boss fight, apart from like a couple of little fights which also have a reason to be there. But there are, to my profound relief, no Lamo. There's no trash, which is just massive hit point sponges. The trash are basically like breather fights, so that you can actually remember what it's like to be able to whomp your opponent before you go back to getting whomped by them.
And most of the nodes are, I think there's one that has 3 arrows on it. The rest are all 1 or 2.
Yeah, there's like I'm sort of starting a big one, which is like 4 or 5 arrows. But
maybe there was one other big one.
That's the only big one I've seen, though. It's just that one. That's really, but generally speaking, you're moving along at a fairly good pace. You aren't getting bogged down and just having to kill wyvern after wyvern after wyvern after wyvern. In fact, I don't think I've seen any wyverns yet, which is a miraculous change from practically every other singularity. Just just wyvern heaven everywhere. But there is one fight that has 200 trash mobs in it.
Yeah.
I saw a video of a guy who killed all of them.
I did too.
Why?
Why would you do that though?
I busted out the Skaha and blew that guy up.
Yeah, I don't even have that. I don't even have the advantage of broken servants like you, and I still 2-turned him. So
he's you don't even have to kill him. You just have to get him to half health.
Yeah, but getting him to half health is the equivalent of killing any other boss in the story up until this point. It's
How much
just
did he have? Like 500k or something like that?
It's about 540,000, I think.
Yeah.
But
just get the biggest, hardest hitting single target Lancer on your friends list and drag every Lancer you can into it and just blast his butt.
No, I don't have so many broken servants, so I use Kirihime like I do for everything. And I used Kirihime, and I used Kirihime, Liz, Waver, and Merlin, and I put all of Waver's buffs on Kirihime. I put all of Liz's buffs on Kirihime. I switched to Merlin and put all Merlin's buffs on Kirihime as well, and hit Emiya for about 450,000 damage or something.
Yeah, my Skaha didn't even hit him that hard. I think she topped out at like 250.
Liz has when Liz is paired with other female servants, the buff that she gives is enormous. It's really, really big. Like she's a really mediocre servant in every other respect, but when viewed as a semi-support, the buffs that she gives to female servants who are not her can be really, really big. Like we're talking like 30 or 40% attack damage. But it gives me an excuse to use Liz more. But so I'm enjoying the story. It's gone in a relatively predictable part. I was a little bit taken aback at the pace at which it goes along, because like I was expecting sort of a Camelot gap between each. The way you had a gap between each major knight battle, I was expecting the same sort of gap between each Shinjuku servant battle, and that was not the case. You just roll from boss fight to boss fight to boss fight with barely a break. It's a good thing that trash is in there, because otherwise I think I'd get too tired. Because I actually did find the first big battle against Avenger of Shinjuku to be really tiring. It was a really long fight. I don't know. I think it took me 40 odd turns to beat him. It took me a very, very long time. The second one I whomped all over him. as soon as he loses the ability to evade every turn, the fight gets a lot faster.
Thankfully, I think the evade one is the one he wiped me on just almost right away, because I wasn't ready for it. I had a team that wasn't set to deal with that at all.
I had a team that wasn't set to deal with it when I fought him. I just grit my teeth and pushed through it, because my usual stock strategy to go to against difficult high hit point enemies is a Tamamo Mash Noble Phantasm looping thing thing with Arturia is the damage funnel. The problem with that is that Arts Noble Phantasm damage loops only work when you can put Noble Phantasm Arts. Arts Noble Phantasm Arts slows your loop down dramatically, and that's what you're required to do a lot of the time in that fight because of the first slot of aid.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a very, very small gimmick that had a very, very detrimental effect on my party. But yeah, Mash tanked all of those instant death debuffs like a boss and didn't succumb even once. Very proud of Beast Kohai. But yeah, so other games, I didn't really play any other games. I'm sort of like, my jimmies are perpetually turbulent at this point since the PSVR FGO thing is coming out in the US, but there's not sign of hide nor hair of it for not the US.
Oh, Virtual Mashu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a story. It's supposed to be a story in there, but I'm not even going to get to poke at it at this rate because nothing's getting localized, and I spent an unhealthy amount of the rest of my time refreshing various vendors' pre-order pages to try and determine if External Link is ever going to be able to be pre-ordered in New Zealand, and that seems to very much not be the case right now. Because I would really like to get the collector's edition. Like, I will shell out an unreasonable amount of money to ensure that Fate franchise stuff keeps getting localized and brought to this corner of the world. But you know, it seems like whenever I like something, nobody wants my money.
Yeah,
it's very deeply frustrating. But, anyway, I don't think I really played any other games per se because I just didn't have the time. It's been a busy week and it's about to get busier. I've been rostered to do PCR all week, which is a scenario which has a theoretical early end time that never actually results in me being able to finish early.
Yeah, I've
Funny
heard
that.
about this mythical early end time, but I've never seen you get home before maybe 6 p.m.
Getting home at 6 p.m. would be a miracle.
Yeah.
Like, normally we're talking, 7:30, 8 o'clock. But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. I've never done PCR 5 days in a row before, and I've never had to do it on a Saturday, which is the most thankless task imaginable because Friday is usually busy enough to make the Saturday PCR run really busy, and the end result of that is that everybody else gets to go home and you're still there watching the PCR machine do its thing. But yeah, at any rate, I hope I'll be able to find some more time to play some more other games. But since they're looking at the new PS Plus lineup, maybe not.
Yeah.
I haven't managed to motivate myself to try any more of For Honor. It was just too uninspiring.
Yeah.
That didn't have the gas I needed. And Monster Hunter still exists. That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, I don't actually have anything to do per se in Monster Hunter, but it's just fun to fight monsters. Like, this was the reason why I loved Terra so much back in the day before they nerfed it. It was just fun to kill things.
Before that game, it made you really need an adult.
It was fun to wander out into a zone where everything was too big for you and whomped by some sort of primitive version of Betelgeuse, as we did at length back in the day.
Yeah.
Those carpet bombs.
Yeah. But, yeah, that game doesn't exist anymore, but thankfully Monster Hunter can scratch that itch. And I couldn't convince Fern to come and help me attempt Arch-Tempered Kieran. He was not cooperative at all.
Just regular Tempered Kieran is bad. We could try it later, but
Look at it like this. If it goes badly, it will be over quickly.
This is true.
Very quickly. I'm not asking you to do Arch-Tempered Xeno'jiiva here.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I heard it's a really interesting fight, though, because it's not at all like old school Xeno'jiiva.
Old school Xeno'jiiva is still a pretty spectacular fight, though.
Yeah, but he's like a baby dragon who stumbles around.
Yeah.
Like, Arch-Tempered Xeno'jiiva is like, okay, so he's not a fawn with wobbly legs anymore.
He hasn't just dropped from the ceiling from his cocoon.
He's a big angry dragon. You don't get a warm-up phase at all.
Yeah.
So, and when he comes in, he immediately destroys all of the things you can jump from.
Yep. So no mounting.
I did not. Actually, until this week, I did not know that you. Well, I've never managed to mount Xeno'jiiva. I've seen no evidence you actually can. But I did not know that you can use him as a bludgeoning weapon to break various parts of the arena, which is apparently how you're supposed to do your sharpening, as I found out. Is that you get him to fly over certain parts of the arena, then you knock him out of the air, and he falls down and smashes off half the platform. Which gives you a smaller room to fight him, but it takes him ages to fly back up from the depths that he falls to. And so you've got time to potion up, to sharpen your weapon, and so on and so forth.
I see.
I wondered what those lines on the map meant, but I just gotten used to ignoring them because I didn't understand. But now I know what they are. They designate the parts of the room you can...
Yeah. I never figured out how to get him to consistently fall down.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You have to be standing in just the right place, and you have to hit him with a pod while he is doing his divey thing. Like, other attacks that he does in the air don't work. You have to catch him in the lengthwise dive, and then just drop him.
Yeah. Eventually, it got to a point where just forgetting about trying to figure it out and just beating on him and hitting him as hard as I could because I knew the fight inside and out from doing it so many dang times was more efficient than trying to sit there and figure it out.
I don't like it. It's still too long.
Yeah,
like every time I do it, I'm like, okay, I'll do a Xeno'jiiva because I don't want to run out of Xeno'jiiva bits, and it's up, so I'll go and I'll do it. And every single time, I regret it because I'm still there 20 minutes later.
Yeah, he's a 20-minute commitment at minimum if you do like max damage the whole time.
Yeah.
And I don't do max damage the whole time. I'm not that great, and I usually build tanky because, you know, you don't want to make that fight even longer by having to run back or, heaven forbid, screw up and die. So
yeah. And you got to get his tail off in phase 1 if you don't want to take forever in phase 2.
Well, that's effortless to do at this point. But stage 2, my goodness.
That was the worst part of the fight for me, was getting his dang tail off in phase 1 with my itty-bitty weapon, because, like mini monsters, the only way to get it was dash and do the jumping slash.
Mm-hmm.
Because my 2 itty-bitty weapons can't reach his tail.
Yeah, I am amped for Iceborne. Really keen on everything but having to fight another version of Kirin.
Yeah.
The Ice Kirin, that's not going to be fun.
No, it is not.
It's like a Kirin, except that it gives you Ice Blight so that you can't run for as long.
Do not want Lagombi. Not that monster is hard, it's just that monster is really dumb.
You know Lagombi is going to be in there. Like, he's the most guaranteed of the ones that haven't been shown yet.
But it's so dumb. Ugh.
I can forgive Lagombi so long as we get the bouncy ball frog shark.
Yes. Zamatros. Give me Zamatros because he's awesome. I think they could actually mesh it to the Jagras skeleton too.
Yeah, I don't think I've got anything else to report on for the week. I haven't played anything new. I'm champing at the bit for Extella Link, and then I'll fall into a deep dark hole when it comes out this month. So,
okay, I'll be doing the same for DMC5.
And since it will be coming out during Lent, I will be perfectly sober and need something to occupy myself. So,
all right. We're not quite at break time yet. I don't have very much of any of the things I have to talk about, but I have a few things I did a little bit in. So, yeah, so I guess we can jump into my week and find a break point if we need to. So, my week. Well, the first game I played was Resident Evil 2, the remake.
Ah, yes.
Resident Evil 2 is a fairly short game. I had started it, I think, right before the show.
Well, you say it's a fairly short game, but if you wanted to play through the story, you still have to play it like 4 times back to back.
Yeah. But it's still too long for a games journalist to play it.
Yeah, to be fair, I've only done one full playthrough of it. Didn't do the Claire Leon playthrough. I did the Leon Claire playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So the story is the exact same as Resident Evil 2, from what I remember. It's a long time ago.
Should hope it was the same.
And yeah, it's good. I was wrong about one thing last week. There are no random ammo spawns in the game, as there have been in past Resident Evils. They are all pre-laid out.
I thought that they were always like that.
It might have only been RE4 onwards, but you could break boxes and they would have a chance to drop a bunch of stuff. Their loot would be randomized.
There was no breakable boxes and random loot in RE2.
Yeah, I didn't remember, but yeah.
Getting to the place where you knew there was ammo was a critical thing.
But yeah, like I said, been a long time. So yeah, that is not a thing. And they have done, I can't tell if it's either a really good job or a really bad job with stretching the ammo. Because you get really, really tight with your ammo. If you're not a bad shot, but you're not a particularly good one, I was missing shots quite a bit. Not a ton, but like about 1 out of 5 at least would go wide.
Now imagine that you've got tank controls.
Yeah. So, yeah, I played on normal difficulty. I didn't do hardcore. And
the ammo drops substantially as you go up difficulties.
Yeah. And I imagine on hardcore you need absolutely every bullet you can get.
Well, the thing is that most of the time you don't kill anything other than like lickers and more difficult. Like regular zombies, most of the time you ignore them.
In this version, I found if you fought the licker, you were wasting way too many resources. Especially as early as they can show up. They show up a few times. There's 2 at the very end of the game that you can kill pretty safely, but the other 2 that show up in the game, at least on Leon's playthrough, it is a much better idea to sneak around those things.
Oh, if you can sneak around them, you always sneak around them, but there are some that you can't. They're sort of mandatory encounter.
Yeah, they're gonna.
If you're lucky, you can shut them in a room and they won't come out. But
yeah, they will not follow you into select rooms and mostly patrol hallway type areas. But that's dangerous because those areas connect to everything else. So you have to balance leaving specific lickers and zombies alive and just either crippling the zombies that are there so that they're just kind of crawling on the ground. You can just kind of run by them. And if they do grab you, they do like 1/4 damage because they can't grab you very good. Or taking them out so that you can have a free area to explore. And the police station in particular feels like it's been changed quite a bit. All the rooms, I think, are still there, but the layout feels just a little bit different. And it felt fine. The same silly Resident Evil, find the, card suit key, go get the medallions to stick in the statue in the right order.
No, it's the crank. It's always the crank. The hexagonal crank with the hexagonal shaft or whatever.
Yeah, there are various levers and cranks you have to go find that have to fit in specific holes, stuff like that. All that's still there. And the police station bit was the best part of the game, in my opinion. It felt like...
it's everybody's favorite part. It's the most Resident Evil feeling.
Yeah, and they did a really good job with Mr. X in the police station. Where when he has set patrol pass he will spawn into, and he's just always there. And if he aggroes you, he will chase you. And you cannot play this game with headphones on listening to something else if you're even on a replay, because you've got to hear Mr. X's footsteps while you're in the police station. Because if he's coming and you're pushing the big, loud, heavy bookcase really slow like, he's going to hear you, and you need to know how close he is so you can put it down and run. And it's a really cool way they do it. I really enjoy the tension that Mr. X gives in this one. Instead of the original one where you would like pump him full of a couple bullets and run away. You actually just cannot engage him in this one, or you're wasting resources that you don't have. So, yeah, I was real happy the way they handled Mr. X. He adds a lot of tension, and he's not so obnoxious that he gets in the way. He becomes an obstacle for only the last few puzzles, and there are certain rooms he'll just leave you alone in. If it's a super puzzle-heavy room where you've got to figure stuff out, like the clock tower, he just leaves you alone in there. You can figure it out in there, and he won't come in there. But if it's like the library where you just got to move stuff to make a bridge, he can come in there and he can interrupt you doing whatever you're doing. And for the record, while you would be right in assuming Mr. X can't climb down ladders, because he doesn't need to, he just jumps down, as I found out. I thought he would run all the way around and come down the staircase at the other end of the library instead of going down a ladder.
Nope.
He did not do that. He can just jump where the ladder is and land right on the ground and punch you. He does not hit you very well, for how big a threat he is, he doesn't do that much damage on standard. He does about as much damage as a normal zombie doing a full strength grab. So it takes 3 punches to kill you from him. But yeah, so he's not too punishing if you do get stuck in a corner with him and he bops you. But he's still an ever-present threat that you have to deal with. And it makes trying to do the game faster to get better ratings and unlock more stuff with better ratings more interesting experience than if it's just memorizing where to go. Because there's actually some strategy involved in where's Mr. X going to spawn. And if you get too far away from him, he will teleport to an area that's closer to you and start patrolling in that area. So you can't leave him on the east side of the station and then run over to the west side to do something. He will teleport to the west side of the station and you'll hear the footsteps even though you just abandoned him in the east corridor. But yeah, it makes it a lot more interesting going through it because there's actual decision making involved instead of just memorization. So I was really happy with the way they handled Mr. X. The sewers are linear and boring and not interesting to look at. Boring. Yeah.
In every game. There is no game where the sewers are the fun level.
Nope.
It's brown. It's brown. There's poop water everywhere. There's a lot of valves and cranks and a really dumb electric socket chess puzzle. I think that was in the original game or something similar to it. And
sounds familiar.
Sounds dumb, so yeah.
Yeah, and it's just not very engaging. You just have to put pegs in the right slot, and it's a whole lot of mostly inventory management rather than actually playing the puzzle. Sewers are the worst part of the game.
But
the labs, yeah, your herbs. They're pretty good about letting you mash together herbs in this game. They space them out enough where you'll find a different color herb usually following it after you get introduced to an herb type. So it'll be a couple greens that you'll get introduced to first, and then they'll start introducing reds, and they'll give you a couple reds in a row, and then you can mix the greens and reds together, and then they'll start introducing blues, and they'll do a few of those back to back, and then they just start spraying them out. Green, red, blue, so you can mix them all together into one item slot, thankfully. And that helps inventory management quite a bit. The labs are the last part of the game, and they are the most what we would most people would call modern Resident Evil-y part of the game. It is more of a combat arena because at that point you are armed to the teeth and you have more ammo than you know what to do with if you've gotten every available weapon in the game.
But usually at that point you're so used to conserving ammo that the ammo is stacking up whether you want it to or not.
Yeah. So if you made your way being fairly conservative with your ammo and not killing the blob monsters in the sewers, for instance, which are really obnoxious. I think those things are new. I don't remember those in the original game at all. And you're going to get there with a ton of ammo, and it's going to turn into a combat area because there's zombies everywhere, and it's just whatever, basically. It's not as bad as the sewers, but it's not as interesting as the police station. It's Resident Evil 2, but prettier. If the older style Resident Evil game and wish they didn't have tank controls, you can go for it. It's a solid recommendation with an asterisk. It's an if you like it recommendation. This is not one I would recommend to everybody because the Mr. X stuff can get really tense. It made my heartbeats per minute jump up, and I'm fairly conditioned to horror stuff.
Well, I mean, realistically, if it manages to get to the point where it's still good even if you don't have nostalgia, then it's doing pretty good.
Yeah. I would say it's a successful remake, but it is trying to be a scary game. And if you're not into that kind of thing, I would say avoid it. If you're not into the Resident Evil style of puzzle solving, don't buy it. But otherwise, go for it. It's a pretty good remake. Yeah. So because I only blew through the story and didn't really do much else with it, that's all I really have to say on RE2. Let's see. I finished Shinjuku. It did not take very long. I was kind of surprised I managed to finish it this week. It was a much shorter chapter than the other ones. I was thinking it would be not quite as long as Camelot, but a little bit shorter, but it was even shorter than I thought it would be. So
well,
I managed...
Camelot and Babylonia are marathon.
Yeah,
Like,
so
they're designed to take a long time because they are the climax of the story.
yeah, so I wasn't exactly sure what kind of length I was expecting, but I was expecting a little bit longer. So yeah, I managed to finish that. It was okay. I've already talked about some of the highlights. I'll wait till Vol finishes it to go in depth with it. Puppy hits hard.
Very hard.
Yeah. And let's see. What else? And the last game I've had time to poke at was Dragon Quest XI, which was a game I got for my birthday that was sitting on the shelf. So I figured I would pop it in and give it a shot. What I expected going into this was a bog standard JRPG straight from the 90s to early 2000s, summoned into the modern day. And that's basically what I got. But what I also got was a whole lot of European accents that are fake and played way too hard.
That sounds just like Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
And it would be fine if it was just the voice acting. I think there's only 2 Dragon Quest games that have English voice acting. I think 8 in this one. But I would be fine with it if it was just the voice acting. It is not. It is also the text. So, like, if a British person is talking, there are apostrophes at the start of every word that has an H and a few
But
other letters.
Britain doesn't exist in that world.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Anybody in the Heliodor area is British.
Heliodor.
Yeah. Everybody in the Honolulu area is Hawaiian.
Because of course they are.
Yeah. Everybody in the Sniffelheim region is some Scandinavian type. Like, and these accents are fake and thick as crap. If people have heard the Jin the Windmaster from the dub of Yu Yu Hakusho and know his bad Irish accent that's so bad it's funny, it's worse than that. It cycles back around to so bad it's bad. And it just makes it really hard to follow what's going on when I'm normally a pretty fast reader, but I have to intentionally slow down because I have to reread every other line when there's apostrophes taking letters out of stuff. And there's people adding random words from other languages in the real world into their sentences that I probably know off the top of my head, but having them interjected into the middle of a sentence that is otherwise in normal English is really jarring. And a lot of times I'll find myself pushing X, thinking my eyes will be going at the speed I normally read, and I'll get to the end of the sentence I'm reading on the screen and push X automatically to scroll it to the next sentence. But I'll realize I needed to reread that last one because I wasn't actually sure what a few of those words meant, or I didn't quite process them right because they were either written weird or they had a non-English word in there.
Huh.
And there is no chat or log. You can't go back and see previous messages that have already passed. And that has been incredibly obnoxious and my biggest complaint with the game. Otherwise, there's 2 ways to talk about Dragon Quest XI. You can talk about it as what it's trying to be, or you can talk about it in the context of modern RPGs/JRPGs, which I don't think you really should, because this game is not trying to be one of those. It's trying to be a throwback to the 90s, early 2000s style of RPG.
I don't even know if that's true. I don't think it's so much trying to be a throwback as it never advanced.
It never
to
really
begin
left,
with.
no.
Yeah. Dragon Quest has never left that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, regardless of why it is what it is, people know what they're getting into when they buy this thing. At least in theory. And if you didn't, now you know. There are a whole lot of silly interface things. There are conveniences there from modern day stuff, but it hasn't quite been implemented quite right in the UI. Like, there is a button to heal your party efficiently with MP, instead of having to manually cast it on everybody. But you have to navigate to the menu, go to the miscellaneous tab, and then find it somewhere in those options.
Why?
Yeah, it's weird stuff like that. There are conveniences there, but they're not as convenient as you would hope.
They're conveniences, but they're inconveniently placed.
Yeah, like, if you open your map, you can see all the respawning resource nodes on the map, the sparkly spots, where you can pick up crafting materials and stuff. But to show them, you have to pull up the map, which will start out blank every time you open it, and then scroll all the way to the bottom of the list where the sparkly spot button is, and push it. Which has made me say, screw that, and went and found actual maps online that just show me where they are. So that I don't have to push that button all the time, because it takes forever to scroll down there, and after you pull up the map. It takes like 2 seconds, but it should just be a press square is what I would be used to with games nowadays. So I cheat a little bit there by just having the map already with the markers on it instead of having to swap between what stuff is marked. It won't let you mark multiple things. You can't mark like chests and sparkly spots and doors and vendors. You can only mark one thing to show up on the map at a time, which gets really, really obnoxious when you're trying to remember where everything is in whatever corner of the map you're in, trying to pick up everything. So I just found maps. Just every time I get to a new region, instead of going around the region 7 times for each type of resources I need to pick up or find, I just look at the full map that I dig up from GameFAQs. I'm like, okay, where are all the chests and sparkly spots and crossbow targets and whatever I need to find? All on one map, so I don't have to keep opening it and checking everything in the area I'm in. So you're getting into that. It's standard turn-based JRPG stuff, as you would expect. There isn't a whole lot in terms of mechanics new going on here that we haven't seen in other JRPGs. There is one mechanic that is unique to this game that I don't even think has really been, at least not implemented this way, in any other Dragon Quest game. There was the tension system in 8, but this is a little bit different. This is called the pep-up system, where after a certain amount of turns, as long as a character has been active in combat and you haven't swapped them out, they will jump up and get a little blue aura, and they get their whatever that character's most used stats are boosted significantly. And if you get multiple party members that get this blue aura, they can do combo attacks. And the cool thing about it is, if you don't use it, you can either pocket that party member while it's still got the pep-up buff and stick him in the bench, and he won't lose it. And you can pull him out for the boss fight. Or you can just keep him along and just keep using it until it runs out, and you've taken enough turns in pep-up for it to say, okay, your pep-up buff wore out. In between fights, it persists between battles. So it's really cool, in theory, until you get side quests that require you to have specific party members pepped up, especially before you have the ability to sit people on the bench to save it for later. Like, there will be ones that require you to have your thief, your main character, and your healer all pepped up at the same time. Use that on a wandering mini-boss in the world and then kill it. That's fine, but this can take, like, 40 battles before all those 3 of those characters are pepped up correctly. And there is no fast way to battle, period. There is no auto battle. There is no quick animations. There is no skip animations. You have to sit through everything. So it takes quite a while to get everybody glowing blue that you need to for these side quests. So it's a hit and miss mechanic. If it wasn't for the side quests, I'd say it was implemented pretty well. But because they're side quests that require it on certain party members, especially before you can sub them out, it doesn't hit so hard. It's quite bad in that regard. But once you get enough party members to sub out, it stops being an issue.
All right.
The other thing Combat does in the game that's interesting is they are not very generous with AoE heals. At all. They are stupid rare. I forget what class he is, the gay guy. I don't know if he's actually gay, but he's the fabulous circus leader that speaks camp.
Right.
He's the one that can get the AoE heal the fastest, but you have to jump every single talent point while you're leveling him up for like the next 5 or 6 levels to get it. And he won't be able to do anything else but that AoE heal for a while.
And be fabulous.
And be incredibly fabulous. I don't think there is more than a minute of dialogue where he talks, where he doesn't say darling or something similar and equally camp. He calls everybody and everything darling or honey or something.
Huh.
He is the campest character. But yeah, it actually starts off like your typical JRPG story. I guess we can talk a little bit about the characters and story. And it's trying to start subverting stuff. At first, it doesn't do it very hard. Like, you start off with a typical, JRPG story. You are the chosen one. Go see the king to figure out who you really are and go on your quest.
Yeah.
Except, when you do that, the king has you arrested and thrown in jail.
Huh.
So, not too subversive there. We've seen that a lot. And you escape the jail. And then they're like, okay, you need to go find these magical artifacts to go do this thing. Oh, that was a really bad thing. Oh, all these party members are totally going to be fine and be my best friends. No, they're not.
Oh, they're all
not
bad.
all of them. So it's doing a few things different and mixing it up and keeping it interesting. It isn't playing all the tropes completely straight, but it's straight enough. It plays about 80% of them straight. So when they do mess with something, it catches you a little off guard. But I think that's more effective than if they try to subvert everything like everybody does nowadays and do everything backwards.
Yep.
Let's see.
They're tropes for a reason. Because they work.
Yeah. Yeah. Your party roster is made up of you, the mute hero, because
of course you are.
And you are played straight as the mute hero, like in every other old school JRPG. You can say yes or no. I don't even think you can do that. Whenever he would talk, it just pops up and says, you explain the situation to X. And doesn't let him actually speak.
You communicate through Toriyama face scowls.
Yeah. You spread your hands out and nod your head a few times, and the screen cuts to black, and then it fades back in and it says, you explained the most recent events to X. Whenever the main character would have to talk. And then we have best buddy thief rogue type character who you meet in jail and become best buds with. And then we have midget black mage and pretty white mage. So they're twins, and we have a midget white mage.
Sometimes those two characters swap positions, but generally speaking, they're always there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have your bard/duelist gay circus man.
The flamboyant one. Yes.
Yeah. He has a peacock dancer's outfit.
Of course he does.
He thankfully has leggings with it.
Oh, that's a relief.
Let's see. Then you have the old man monk type sage character who has really good spellcasting, uses fist weapons. And then you have the busty, not heavy weapon user, but spear/fist user girl.
Mm-hmm.
Who, spoilers. Well, actually, I won't spoil it, but let's just say a certain trope that I don't like in Japanese media is in force here. And involves step siblings.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah.
Why you do this, Japan? Stop it!
Thankfully, the person she is related to is... Well, no, it's hard to say at this point. I hope not. I hope it doesn't go anywhere. I'm still in Act 1
This
of the
is a franchise for children!
Yeah. Please don't. Dragon Quest 11, know you can hear me inside my PS4.
Wait, what?
Please don't do it. Just keep it straight. But it's setting off warning bells.
No.
Yeah. And there is an interface spoiler for an 8th character I don't have yet. But I think they're going to come in a later act or near post-game. Like a hidden bonus character in older JRPGs.
Yeah.
So,
it's going to be the bad guy.
Yeah. And despite the complaints I leveled at it, I've actually been really enjoying it because it's just nice to go back to something that I'm familiar with from when I was younger, but has a new story attached to it.
Well, I've also heard that it's just generally quite good for what it tries to do.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with JRPG classic.
Yeah. The only real substantial complaint the most of the stuff I was complaining about earlier was more warnings for other people. The only complaint I had was how long it took to get the game to take the kid gloves off. Like, it takes a long time before anything's even going to threaten your party.
That's been a running trend in a lot of Square Enix games lately.
It's been a running trend in a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some games just never take the kid gloves off.
But thankfully, it finally got around to it with a boss that can AoE stun 10 waves from Sunday with different types of stuns and poison you and do a whole bunch of other stuff and gets multiple actions per turn. And I was like, okay, now we actually have a boss fight. So yeah. I don't know if I'm going to recommend it yet, but so far I've been enjoying it. I'm only in Act 1. Like I said, I haven't done very much. I just have collected all the party members, which takes about not even 10 hours if you just are going and saving the side quest stuff to do later. So yeah. That's about where I'm at right now.
All right. In that case,
and I think that's everything that I'll talk about this week.
In that case, we should probably take a break.
Yes, we should, and I should check the emails.
All right,
folks.
Take us out.
Here's some music, folks. We will be back in a minute. And we are back.
Yes, indeedy.
Xeno'jiiva has appeared.
No, don't go fight that. It's a trap.
No, I don't. I'll still be going when the show is over.
Yes, you will. Xeno'jiiva. Why are you so Xeno'jiiva? Alright, was there anything else for your week, Ari, sir?
Nope. I did kind of get caught up on the Slime anime, but I didn't quite get all the way caught up, so I'll save it until then.
Alright, I just gotta say on that new one, the new arc I am enjoying, largely because Rimuru has turned out to be an enormous troll as a teacher. It's just fun to watch. Shield Hero, I also continue to enjoy, but I can't really talk about that one after about episode 1 without spoiling anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, go watch that one too. They're both really, really good. All right, we should probably look at some news.
No.
Lots of little
Indeed.
things this week, and a couple of bigger things, and also disappointments, because of course there are. Where do you guys want to start? I mean, we could start with the low-hanging fruit and just bang on about Anthem being bad for a while, but
I mean, want to save Anthem for the end or do it now?
Well, everybody already knows about Anthem being bad at this point.
Anthem's just bad. This is your
The
weekly
internet
reminder.
The internet has done little else than talk about how bad Anthem is.
Yeah. It's becoming a meme at this point, and it's worrying.
Yeah, and the sales have been bad. People don't like it. The PlayStation version apparently crashes for a pastime. The game is bad.
It just doesn't work, and it's bad.
Writing is bad. The game is bad. Every part of the game is bad. Apart from apparently the core mechanic of flying around in your battle suit and some of the less vanilla types of the javelins are fun to play, allegedly.
Yeah,
whenever they don't, have a pop-up get in the way of your heat meter and send you crashing into the ground.
And the game just doesn't crash outright.
Generally speaking, not a great product, but everybody knows it. Everybody's been talking about it.
Honestly, nobody has been surprised by it either. It's because everyone expected this game to be bad.
And that's sort of like the sad thing about it. It's like they didn't pull up because you think you do but you don't.
Yeah.
Like either they were so burnt out from corporate oppression that they just didn't care anymore by the end of it.
Yeah.
Or they sincerely believed that everybody was wrong.
Yeah, wrong concept, wrong company, wrong publisher. Just, yeah.
I feel bad for all the BioWare fans who were waiting for their return to form after, the disaster that was Andromeda and the disaster that was ME3 and so on.
Yeah. I used to be a BioWare fan, as did a lot of people, and we're just not anymore.
Yeah, the BioWare we knew is dead. Dead.
Dead. Yes. So yeah, weekly reminder: Anthem is terrible, and you shouldn't be playing it.
Yes, unfortunately.
I haven't looked at their roadmap. I don't know if they've included anything in there that's promising at all. But
yeah,
honestly, it's going to be one of those cases where it's too little, too late. Much like with Destiny 2.
Yeah,
where Destiny 2 may be a very solid game now. That's everybody says that it is, but too late. I don't really want to go and stick my hand back in that. It wasn't great playing, and they've changed some things as well, like changing the monetization system in that game somewhat. And apparently people are upset about it. Well, they had that system right where you would roll on a random item from a set, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was one of them.
And in that scenario, if you got one of the you would get one of the items, but you could invest what I presume was real money, funny money, and you could invest that in getting another roll. but because you had already gotten one thing from the pool, there was sort of pseudo bad luck protection because you couldn't get a duplicate or whatever. So you would roll again, and it was basically the idea was that you would be tempted to invest more and more. So it was sort of predatory in a gambling way to a certain extent. But they've removed that, and they've put in basically more sort of straight up purchase stuff, which has made people unhappy because they don't get the free thing anymore. But they don't get the free thing, but instead the developer is being honest up front about the purchase. Like, this is a purchasable thing, and you're expected to pay money if you want it. They aren't pretending like, oh well, you could get this free if you just gamble over and over again. So I'm not quite sure which of those is worse, like just nickel and diming people to death, or tempting them to nickel and dime themselves to death by predatory schemes for people who just might not be prepared for it. But it's still not the gacha. So
no,
the gacha.
Dear. The gacha.
Yeah, it's like the Penny Arcade comic that I linked in the show Discord. I just kind of miss being able to buy a game and put it in, and it's got the game in it. Yes. And you can just play it because you already paid money and you own it, so it's yours. You don't have to.
You buy the game and you get the game.
You don't have to go hand in hand to somebody and hand over more money just to play the game that you purchased already.
It's not your game. You signed a EULA that says it's still their game. They still own it.
It's a service.
That's a service.
Good grief. Games as a service has been such a cancer on the industry, and really there's no way out of it anymore. The best we can hope for is that, eventually the big companies will wither to a great extent and they'll just be the stewards of a couple of big franchises, and the indies will basically be the ones who produce games that are designed to be fun. As opposed to being designed to be monetized to the absolute optimal amount. Though, EA has commented in the past that they are consciously trying to avoid optimal monetization because they think that it will be conspicuous if they ever actually did it.
It's pretty conspicuous already.
Yeah, the fact is that they are so far down the conspicuous rabbit hole that I don't think that anybody would notice if they made it worse because it's so bad already. Like, only the people that are sort of already in for a penny, in for a pound are fooled by it at the point. Like, the people who actually invest all the money in the NBA games, like, basketball's not really so much of a thing in New Zealand, so I don't know how popular that stuff is in the US, but judging by the sort of money that it seems to turn up, it must be pretty popular.
Seasonal hoopsketball is a thing I am completely aware of when it happens because everybody's always talking about it.
Yep. Never stop.
As far as Anthem goes, it's just the reason why everybody was saying that it would be bad, I think, is almost like a weird displacement activity. Like, they've been burned so many times that they're trying to sort of seek a form of reconciliation with themselves, really. They're trying to vindicate themselves by pointing out the trap that they already fell into before they fall into it a second time.
Yeah.
Because the reason everybody called it is largely because in one form or another, everybody has already been got.
Yeah.
The thing. Everybody's already been got.
There's really not a big crowd of people who has not been burned by EA in some way.
Laying aside the weaknesses of the design and the writing and so on and so forth, the big weakness of Anthem really is that it didn't do anything new on any front. And it's not just that it's like another game, it's that it's trying to use the same tricks and traps to make you want to play it and to make you spend money on it that have basically already starting to hit their expiration date on other games. So if it had come out before there was a Destiny 2, for instance, there might have been more traction, not because the game was so much like Destiny 2 that it looked more original, but because people had not been to the rodeo before.
Yep.
But people know what it looks like now. They know what a nickel and dime engine looks like when they see it.
Mm-hmm.
The people that fall for it were the people who were always falling for it and always going to fall for it. The same way that the people that fall for one gacha game, most of them fall for every gacha game. Like in the case of something like FGO, there are a few exceptions, like people like me who the only reason they care is because it's the Fate franchise. They don't. It's not the gacha itself that's really the draw there. But for most people, it's like a particular type of psychology will work on a particular type of person.
Yep.
And the trick is to broaden the number of types of psychology that can be manipulated to the greatest possible extent. That's what the marketing people. And there is sort of like an arms race of customer awareness that they are being manipulated versus the business acumen of the people doing the manipulating. So in the case of Anthem, I feel like they're just too far behind in the arms race. Like they are using previous generation weapons, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Where the current arms race is like Apex versus Fortnite. It's not actually, they shouldn't actually be fighting the Destiny versus Anthem battle. They're old dogs trying to use old tricks in a world where new tricks are the new hotness. So I think that as far as Anthem goes, it's just a doomed premise.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything on earth that they could do to redeem it at this stage. It's not just because their PR is in the toilet either. It's because their mentality is all wrong. The game was developed on a flawed premise that you could do the old thing again and have it work like it was a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same problem as, philosophically speaking, as the WoW killer boom, where everybody had their alleged WoW killer.
Yeah.
It's not that, well, World of Warcraft did so many great things so much better necessarily, so much as it's Warcraft got there first, and now what you're doing is not new.
Mm-hmm.
There's no zing to it.
Yeah.
It's the same reason the World of Warcraft store hasn't taken, because they are trying to do an old. Like the only people that invest in those store items are the people who, like me, are so invested in a franchise that they don't really care about the mechanism of obtaining it.
Yep.
For normal people, there is 0% draw to that store because it's an old format. There's nothing new about it. People can smell that they're being ripped off 1,000 miles away.
Yep.
That's why every time they release a new thing in the WoW store, there's another outcry from the fan base, and the uptake on them drops month over month because it's just so obvious now. People have seen that scam before. Blizzard needs to come up with a new scam. And everybody's new hotness at the moment is going to be, investing a gratuitous amount of money in mobile development, because everybody saw what happened with Lineage Mobile. And, yeah, like, they managed to... I think the comparison that I heard recently was that the mobile version of Lineage managed to make as much money as the entire history of Guild Wars 2 at launch.
Wow.
That's the power of mobile.
That's not bad for a game that plays itself completely without the actual, player.
I have no idea about the specifics of the game. It's just an example that leapt to mind, but
yeah,
that's going to be like that's the smell of green is attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're going to see a lot of companies, not just Blizzard, not just ArenaNet, but we're going to, well, not just NCSoft, are going to be cutting staff on big ticket,
which is
big ticket production and
it's
putting
kinda
it
sad,
into
actually.
mobile.
Yeah, like despite the outcry against Diablo Immortal, because of just how big that market is, that's still going to make money.
Yeah, it's going to make a humongous amount of money.
Embarrassing levels of money.
If Blizzard wants to let it, it will kill that franchise dead.
Yeah,
because people will associate Diablo with being screwed in a mobile game.
But I don't think they'd care because they've just made a stupid amount of money from it.
Yeah, and it costs nothing to develop.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing whatsoever, because that stuff they showed is just a reskin of an existing game.
All right, moving on. Next little article we've got. Well, actually, first little article I've got. Production of the PlayStation Vita has stopped in Japan.
I feel like I've heard this news article 15 times now.
Yeah, it's been stopped here and there around the world previously, and I think Japan was the final holdout for it.
So it's just going to become even harder.
Yeah. So it's a shame. Like, I don't think we're going to see another PlayStation handheld for quite some time either.
I'm not sure if we're ever going to see another handheld.
Yeah.
From anybody. Like, the Switch has completely upset the apple cart.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
It's a console and it's a handheld. Done.
And, well, there's that. That's on one side of the ledger, but that's like eating the greasy scraps from that side of the ledger because the mobile is basically blowing everything up on the other side.
Yes,
but there's no ground between those two anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like the mobile space is occluded sufficiently by the Switch that there is now not a space between the edge of that circle on the Venn diagram and the edge of the mobile game one. Like there's no gap to stand in there, or at least the gap is like $100 big, not 100 million big.
Yeah. It's a shame. But yeah.
Is it? It may turn out not to be.
Well,
like if the people love their Switches.
They do love them Switches.
The market has decided that this is the paradigm they want, and this is what competition is for, so that we can get the best product. If the Switch is the best product, more power to it.
Yeah. So if we get another competitor to the Switch, like PlayStation comes about their own version, that could be interesting.
I don't think they have it in them.
I think
that the market vector for Sony computer entertainment is different. What they want is something different to what Nintendo want.
Yeah.
I think that the Vita and the PSP were always dabbling. They were never really... After the PSP, it was clear that Sony didn't know what they were doing. Everybody knew that the Vita wasn't going to do as well as the DS when it came out. That was the way of it. It was an exercise in dabbling in the market and making a little bit of money, seeing if there was room to eke out with a multimedia device. The PSP was similarly... The PSP failed because of the same sorts of reason. When I say failed, I'm using failed in the loosest term. I mean, I don't know that it was a failure. Sony often tends to fail on hardware. And they make their money back on licensing and things, but I feel like it was TV spirits. Like the PSP provides an abundance of additional services. It provided, multimedia, music, the internet radio, internet browsing. There were lots of multimedia options. They tried to create a UMD movie market, but it was
that fell on its face.
Yeah, but that's TV spirits, right?
That's TV spirits, yes.
Xbone wanted to, quote, take over the living room, unquote.
Yeah.
And so they fired all of their ammunition at that target instead of winning the console war head-to-head on big-ticket titles like Sony does. And I think that's Sony's shtick, really, is to produce the Last of Us, to produce the Boy of War, or the God of Boy, or the whatever.
Dad of Boy.
Yeah,
Boy.
Dad of Boy.
Dad of Boy.
That's their thing. That's the Sony thing, is that they want the juggernaut. They want to be like the console which produces the Marvel movies of the games industry. Like the big, expensive, flashy, blockbuster things that, they may or may not move you necessarily, but everybody wants them because they're a phenomenon when they come out.
Mm-hmm.
Like that explode. That's basically what Uncharted was, right? And Uncharted kept PS3 alive, essentially. Without Uncharted, that console goes under because it pulled in so many people. It was the Hollywood experience, except you got to play it. That was what it was. And I think that's really Sony's shtick. The portability of the sort of moment-by-moment game experience that the DS capitalized on, that was never anything good at.
Yeah.
There were a few titles that did it, and there are some niche things on there, but the real sleeper hits were things that weren't built for the PSP at all, like Valkyrie Profile Lenneth, for instance, which became a legendary phenomenon in the circles of the people who actually knew about the game, but it was by no means a PSP game. It was just a game that was on the PSP.
Yes.
The difference with Nintendo is that they produce portable games.
Yes.
They don't produce games that appear on a portable device.
And before anyone says anything, no, mobile games are not the same. But we'll come back to that.
The Switch is basically the apotheosis of that concept, because that's Nintendo's shtick, right? Because Mario was always suited to the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Even though it appeared on the NES, it was always, ready for that. It just so happened that those two families of concepts were very, very good match. And the Switch drops nicely in that slot where Nintendo has found that they can do that. And if they want to err on the side of sit in place, well, the Switch can do that. And if they want to err on the side of being more suitable to, moments of gameplay that can be dispersed amongst, convenience, well, they can do that. And they don't need to have two systems. They've got their, 36 million install base.
Yep.
Xbone has been out more than twice as long, has got a 40 million install base. Like, it's not like you need to pick your targets, and Nintendo have found a perfect niche, really. Like they did after bombing out in spectacular fashion with the Wii U, they managed to succeed for the same reason the Wii did.
Yeah.
Which was to find a thing that they could do that was better than what other people could do by choosing their target.
Yeah.
And I think that if Sony has a brain in their head, which they don't, they could do the same thing. They could become like the big ticket movie studio of the games industry and produce the console whose job it is to have the hits.
Yeah. So, as it currently stands is if you want portable gaming on the go, you get a Switch. There's no other question. You don't get a mobile because that market has basically, what's the word? It's destroyed itself, honestly, on that appeal. Like, the mobile could have been a platform for some seriously good portable games, but ultimately it's just been overrun by gachas and crap.
Yeah, it's a platform for microtransactions.
Yeah,
that's the reality. Is the mobile phone is a platform for microtransactions.
Yeah,
unless you have a chronic addiction to a particular franchise like me, there's reason to play games on your phone.
There are some very, very good games on mobile platforms. On the mobile phone. But if you want to find them, you're going to have to dig.
I think that the mobile phone, when it comes to good games on the mobile phone, I feel like it's just going to be, well, this is the venue on which indies can cut their teeth in code. Look at what it's like to build a game from scratch and release it and market it. Like, your practice field is the mobile market. Because you're guaranteed the install base. You don't need to weigh up your options. Everybody's got one. Don't you guys have phones? I mean, it was the wrong thing to say, but the truth is everybody had phones. It was the wrong thing to say because that wasn't what people wanted. But the reality is it's a great place to start your development process because you know what the install base. Mm-hmm. It's got the tools available. Everybody's familiar with coding for it. The resources are there. It doesn't cost very much. So that's where you're going to get games on that platform. But as a platform, viewed from overhead, from a bird's eye view, it's just like a pockmarked battlefield of microtransactions over microtransactions. This is what it is, and that's ultra profitable. There's a good reason why FGO makes more money than the Sultan of Brunei. It's because gacha works, but gacha is also hostile to the human soul.
Yes.
So yeah. Despite the fact that there are no killer apps for me on the Switch, largely because I know I can get Extella Link on another platform, because that's all that matters to me. I'm still tempted to get one simply because I'm relatively convinced that's the future. Yep. As far as game consoles go, on that branch of things, that's the future. And like I said, I think Sony can create another branch of the console market, but I don't think they've got the brains to do it because they just try and take the bull by the horns every time for good or for.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll keep following the pattern that most dudes in the gaming industry have, where after they fall flat on their face, they pick themselves up pretty good for about a year or two before they fall on their face again.
I've I've sort of been umming and ahhing about that as a concept and how that all plays out. And I think that the reason that works, that appears to work, is because they have a dance partner. And as soon as Microsoft doesn't want to dance anymore, Sony won't be able to dance either. So if it's a matter of which one of them decides to go off on their own and carve out a niche first, will establish itself and the other one will wither. Because I don't think there's really that much room in the market. And Nintendo have managed to carve out spaces for themselves in the past. Like what we almost did was end the arms race with the Wii. Because you have these two juggernauts with locked horns, Sony and Microsoft, who are basically investing a bajillion dollars in trying to have the most powerful black box to pretend to be a PC. And Nintendo demonstrated that you can seize a comically large amount of the market simply by refusing to play that game. Yes. And getting people to play your games because your games are fun, as opposed to having the best graphics.
Yeah, the argument was, why would you buy a PlayStation or an Xbox? Because it's got graphics and Why would you buy a Nintendo? Because it's fun.
Yeah, right. So what we end up is you've got this market where the Xbox family exists and the PlayStation family exists. Their horns are locked. Nintendo goes off on their own and demonstrates that those two are playing the game wrong.
Yes.
So then we have the outcome of that is that the quote victor unquote of that battle was Xbox 360. The quote loser unquote of that battle was the PS3, and the laughing god who dominated both of them was Nintendo.
Yeah.
So instead of the thing is, Microsoft almost learned their lesson. They learned their lesson, and then some idiot from marketing stuck their oar in and caused them to trip over at the starting blocks and land flat on their face trying to market TV spurts to people who, most of them don't play spurts and don't watch TV because nobody watches TV. Who watches TV? And so they were trying to sell a product that nobody wanted, but the core concept was right. The core concept was you couldn't just stay with horns locked forever. Unfortunately, what that resulted in them doing is producing an incredibly substandard piece of hardware. And with the sort of the big blockbuster titles that I mentioned before, Sony seized the initiative and have carved out their 90 million install base.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is now. It's a hefty number. So the problem is that the response that Microsoft did was to lock horns again and try and come out with a more powerful system in the One S, in the Project Scorpio stuff.
Yep.
And then, Sony immediately reacts by locking horns and coming out with the PS4 Pro. And Sony had nearly learned their lesson as well, but once more they jumped the gun. They made PSVR. PSVR was an immature technology.
Mm-hmm. Still is.
There's potential for it to do a Wii-ish thing if it was cheaper and more mature.
Yep.
It's not. So, again, they had the right idea, but where do we stand right now at the end of this console war? We stand with the two juggernauts locking horns and Nintendo poised to steal their lunch again.
Yeah.
Again.
Because they've gone off and done their own thing again.
Switch has barely been out, and they're already reaching the install base of Xbone and will, in all likelihood, equal or surpass the PS4 by the time the PS4 is truly phased out. It's going to be a bloodbath.
They need all they really need is a few more killer apps, and they've got one in the pipework at least.
And ultimately, we are exactly where we were when the PS3 and the Xbox 360 had their horns locked and the Wii was stealing their lunch. We have made zero progress. The only difference is that investors are pulling out of the industry. So people need to really, really decide what it is that they want to do shortly before everything falls apart.
There's a lot of monkey wrenches that are going to wind up in the usual pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the way video games are changing so much with investors pulling out and companies being as anti-consumer as possible. So there's a lot of ways things could go. It's hard to predict right now. I can't really think of anything to say because the more I think about it, the more I think I really can't tell because of how bad the industry is doing and how likely it is that it's going to crash.
Yep. So for all we know, everything could just collapse completely, and here's Nintendo sitting there with their colourful little screen. Perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Which is sadly actually seems to be the way things are leaning.
Yeah, they just got to put something on it that I actually want.
Yeah.
But that's the reason I don't have a Switch is because their first party titles is not something that I want. But there is a very plausible reality where the PS5 comes out and they don't offer me anything. But that's a real reality because I'm not going to play another zombie game.
No,
you can't sell me another zombie game.
Cannot sell anyone on a zombie game these days.
That seems to be the go-to to promote every new system these days. Is like, well, we've got your zombie game and we've got your
Call of Duty
From Software game, and you've got your military simulation shooter, pseudo simulation.
So many pseudos.
Yeah, all of the pseudo.
Your military-like.
It's not even. I don't know. That sort of assumes there's some sort of similarity there.
Military
but anyway,
flavored, maybe.
I like. There's a lot about the aesthetics of the PS4 that I like, and I mean that along every imaginable axis. There's sort of games that tend to come to the PS4, right down to the design of their UIs and their physical box. There's a lot I like emotionally about the PS4, but the reality is I don't see them offering me anything worth a damn when the PS5 comes out.
Yeah,
but there's just they aren't moving in a direction that is promising, and Microsoft certainly isn't either. Like, they seem to be moving in a direction which is all about subscription services and how they can farm that out to as many locations as possible. And if that's what they're doing, I already have a PC. If they're really going to equalize the gap between Windows 10 and the Xbox family, well, I don't need it. And that leaves Nintendo, the only company that is doing something independent, that is actually, making a mark. They're making something interesting, making something notable and novel. The only issue is that there isn't a game on them to play. Because Breath of the Wild was an absolute damp squib for me. If they had produced something like Ocarina of Time instead, I would have already gone.
Majora's Mask. Gimme.
Majora's Mask is too much tension for me. I have nightmares about Majora's Mask.
It is the terrifyingest of the Zeldas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the thing which attracts me to the PlayStation consoles in general is always what is on them. For the case of the Switch, it's like that console has so much potential.
Yeah,
it's not just a powerful computer with a bunch of corporate money behind it. It's actually a device with potential.
It's a games system.
Yeah.
Here's an easy solution. Something Fate. Done.
If they would put a bunch of games that had Fate franchise stuff in there, you win me on that.
Yeah.
On that particular
score. We'll tangent into the big article, or one of the big articles of the day is Nintendo's just decided they want to sell a whole bunch more consoles, and they've announced Generation 8 Pokemon.
Yeah. That's a surefire winner for most people who are into Nintendo. It's basically nothing to me.
It's what people have wanted since the moment the Switch was announced.
It's what people have always wanted. I think people are sick of the realities that we had been forced to accept, where Pokemon was always going to be it was a phenomenon, yes, but it was also always multiple generations of technology behind, because it got stuck on the handheld.
Yeah.
And some people just want to immerse themselves in Pokemon, and you really can't do that as well with a handheld. But now that the handheld is also the main console...
Yeah. So with the last couple of generations, particularly Sun and Moon, they've pushed the 3DS to its absolute limit, but ultimately I think the franchise has definitely been restricted by that. There's only so much you can do. So, they've come out and announced the new generation of Pokemon Sword and Shield, or as it should probably be called, Pokemon Fish and Chips, on the Switch.
It sounds so cool, like a good idea. I would be excited for it.
Yeah.
But there's one big problem.
And what would that be?
I think every single one of those starters look ugly.
Yeah, they're not the most inspired starters.
Usually, at worst, I'll think 2 are hideous, but like one of them.
Yep.
But I just don't like any of them this time. I hope their stage 3s are good because their starter stages look ugly as crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they do have a really redeeming evolutions, because I just can't see them approving designs which are that bad the whole way down, because starters sell game. That's the thing.
Yeah, sadly though, it looks like we've gone back to the classic firefighting starter, because that's a bunny and it's got a bandage on its nose.
Why?
Remember when they got backlash from Incineroar, and everybody can just kind of tell it was originally firefighting, but they changed it to Fire Dark at the last second?
Yeah, they went with the dark.
But it looks like a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, Incineroar gets a pass because of the pure levels of ham it exudes.
Like, I expect to hear Incineroar spout a Macho Man Randy Savage line.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not subtle at all. And if you
not
go
even
into
remotely.
if you look at his stat balance, his moveset, it is clear this dude was meant to be a firefighting type. And they saw the fans complaining about it, and they changed it at the last second. Is the only explanation for some of that stuff.
Yeah, I hope we're wrong, and they haven't gone back to firefighting, because we got, of all the stars, you got the most that are firefighting. Just stop.
Please.
So yeah, the starter is some. Here we go. Score Bunny, which I swear I've seen this design before somewhere, but I can't place it. It's a fire rabbit.
It's the best looking one of the bunch, but that's not saying a lot.
I kind of like Grookey, the leaf monkey.
Yeah.
I think the water one looks so little like anything that it could look like anything when it evolved.
What's that ugly fish that people use as avatars? The pink one. That's what it reminds me of. No, the blob fish. That's what that stupid thing reminds me of whenever I see it.
Looks more. It's.
I think the meme thing. I think I see what you mean. Yeah.
It looks like a chameleon as pushed through the filter of Studio Ghibli.
Gonna evolve into a blue Pookie Pookie.
Yes! Pookie. If it evolves into Pookie Pookie, I will take it, because Pookie Pookie is a bro after the Witcher crossover.
Oh, dearie me.
So, yeah, the starters are kind of bleh. I'm not sure exactly what the uniting theme for them is this time around, but we'll see. You tend not to be able to pick the theme anyway until the final stage.
Is monotype just a dead thing in the meta now? Like, there's just no advantage anymore?
There's plenty of good monotypes out there.
Because it seems like they don't do monotype starters anymore, ever.
No, they don't. The last couple of games they've had your water, grass, fire loop, and then you've had another one behind it going the other way.
Yeah, we had water fairy, we had fire dark, and we had, what the heck was even the owl?
Grass ghost.
Yeah, grass ghost. That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, you even if you were weak to your rival's starter, you still had a move that was super effective against it.
That's casual.
That's totally casual.
Like I had to fight the. I only remember first generation, but I remember having to push a rock uphill. It was not. There was no saving grace moves added.
Psychic types was broken in first generation.
There was no using a steel claw move to beat Brock.
Nope. So yeah, those are the three new Pokemon they've actually shown us. The rest of it has been all about the world, which looks pretty cool. It's a mashup of the British Isles. By the look of it.
But we know now, having listened to Ari's opinion on Dragon Quest, that he hates the British.
Yes. So yeah, you've got the White Horse, the Cliffs of Dover, except they're totally not. London is in the north, and also not London. But it does still have Big Ben. Sort of.
Yeah. I'm more stuck on the baseball stadium.
I'm thinking that was actually football, but yeah. I'm wondering what's going on there.
I think he had a baseball uniform on, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
The English do not play baseball.
Let's just say that cricket doesn't have that sort of pop appeal.
Cricket is the most boring game in the world. It edges
Yeah.
out baseball by virtue of actually running for 4 or 5 days per game.
Didn't the Australians cheat recently?
I don't know. Probably.
Like there was some big debacle about it.
It's that's probably just the rivalry between Australia and India.
No, it was in the papers last year or something. That it was a huge scandal involving like putting tape on a ball or something.
Oh, that. Yeah. I don't know. My brain kind of just glazed over the moment cricket was mentioned. Blah. So yeah,
The part that I find fascinating about cricket is how people find it fascinating. Like basically, like the attempt to zhuzh up such an incredibly dull game is sort of amusing to me.
yeah, the zhuzhing didn't really work very well. It's still boring. It's just boring in smaller doses now. So yeah, you can play Pokemon Soccer maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there. The world looks good. Like it's actually a moving world. Things move in it. This shouldn't be a feature, but because of Pokemon being stuck on the 3DS for so long, that's actually worth noting.
Yeah.
I suppose what's the? No, this is a question which is almost pertinent to what we were discussing previously. What is the difference in barrier to entry between a Pokemon which is on the current generation handheld and a Pokemon which is on Nintendo's current generation console?
Not sure.
How
Like,
so?
is there a difference in terms of like the price to enter that whole game that is substantially different to what it was like previously? Because I mean, the handhelds had gotten pretty cheap.
Yeah, I knew
towards
Pokemon Sun and Moon in Australia launched at $60.
So a lot of the Pokemon appeal is not just that it's portable, but that everybody has that device already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's a really large market out there. I know quite a few people actually who fit into this, where they've been waiting just for Generation 8 Pokemon before they buy the Switch.
Yeah. know a lot
I
of
think
people like
that's
too.
also true. Like, there's one of those. The things that sell consoles is always those big first-party
Yeah.
titles.
Like, there's plenty of other games that they're interested in. Like, they think, yeah, I might pick up Smash and I might pick up Zelda, but what I'm really waiting for is Pokemon.
If you're Microsoft, you try and sell your console with Sunset Overdrive.
Ugh. That game. Like, okay, it might be fun, but it's still
Don't
cringe.
Yeah.
It dropped off the map within like a week.
It did. It really did. Just by being cringe. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they just like release Pokemon and like have they given any prospective release window?
No, but they usually announce them within the same year.
So it's going to be Christmas coupled with a Switch price cut, and Nintendo's will be the only thing people buy.
Yes, that sounds about right. This is Reggie's parting shot, maybe.
Like, if what you really want is to leave on top of the world, I mean, this is the way to do it.
Reggie walks
Like,
out.
he
the
retired
game
not
industry.
because he was sick of working, but because he knew that he'd already won.
Yeah. Reggie just drops the mic and walks out of the industry. Done. We love you, Reggie. So, yeah, Pokemon Generation 8. We'll see how it goes. Generation 7 is actually a notable step up in difficulty over the previous ones.
The re-released super special versions were Ultra Sun and Moon.
They were.
But I have heard... I did not play the original Sun and Moon, so I don't have firsthand with this, but I have heard they are fairly easy, like the rest of the most recent games.
Yeah, comparatively easy compared to Ultra, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them... Go ahead.
I wonder what a Pokemon game with a Platinum Trophy in it would do to Ari.
Good luck with that.
Please don't. Please don't.
There's going to be something like... If their pattern holds true, this new generation is going to put the collectible number up over 900. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I might need to borrow more of Fern's Bank than I borrowed for Ultra Sun and Moon.
Yeah.
We might need to stage an intervention. That's what might need to happen.
Please don't. Don't do it, Nintendo.
That's alright. The Switch does not support trophies. You're fine.
Yet.
Well,
In a way,
they're not
I'm both happy and sad because I'm happy that the games I do play on Switch don't have that kind of pressure. But I'm also kind of sad because they are a motivator. And Bayonetta 2 did have trophies. Just they were only in the game and only for you. Nobody else could see them, and I still had to get them all.
Yep.
Do you know how hard Radon is? Do you know how hard that fight is?
I have never actually fought that fight, but I've watched it, and oh my.
Yeah. Single-digit frames for everything.
Yeah.
Low single digits for most of them.
I hope you have the reflexes of a god. Anyway.
Please don't do that.
So yeah, more Pika-Mans. This is going to sell consoles like you wouldn't believe.
Yep.
See
it's going to be interesting.
See if Sony and Microsoft come out with an equal killer app. I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
None of the other two systems have a franchise that is nearly as big. There are no franchises that are nearly as big.
Do you still have to like have your Pokemon fight balloons and stuff?
Fight what?
Fight against balloons and things.
The super training, you can do it.
In Ultra, yeah.
Because the existence of that is the reason why I never finished X and Y.
Yeah, it's
because
it's an option, but you don't have to do it.
It would destroy me. Like, the fact that I knew it was there was enough to prevent me from not doing it.
It's always. I think it's always going to be there in the current gen games we have, but I don't think it will. I always treated it like a thing to do it in game. It was something I couldn't ignore, but if I could push it off until in game, it didn't bother me as much.
Well, it didn't matter till end game anyway.
Yeah, because while you're going through leveling up, if you want to play with your friends who are also doing their regular progression teams and just what they got, if you're super training, you're just going to kick their butt, and that's not fun.
Yeah. If you actually just level up effort values through gameplay, you're going to end up with a fairly even spread across all your stats. If you want to specialize, though, that's one way of doing it, is going through the balloon minigame.
I couldn't not do it when I knew that it was present. It was like, well, I'm supposed to do this, right? Because when you've got two screens, it's there all the time, and you can't not see it.
Yeah, you can turn it off actually in Ultra, thankfully.
Ultra Sun and Moon does have an even worse thing, though, with the Pokemon Archipelago.
Yeah, the Pokemon Archipelago. Yeah.
They call it the
Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah, Pokemon. It's a Facebook game that gets you a whole lot of good resources for your Pika-Mans, and you feel the need to go in every time it pops up with an alert, and I hope they learn their lesson and shut Rotom up.
Yeah, Rotom got really annoying. Do you want to save your game? You only just saved 3 seconds ago. You need to save.
The Rotom Pokedex was the worst idea they've ever had. It was it is the sole reason I didn't stick with Ultra Sun and Moon longer than I did. I just got so fed up with Rotom. I wanted to flush him down the toilet.
Needs more saving.
The dude will literally take your map away to talk to you. Like, I need that map. Give that back.
No, you got to save.
You haven't saved in the last 15 minutes. Do you want to do it right now? And then he'll just have random flavor text sometimes for no reason. Please don't do that again, Nintendo.
Yeah, that was really annoying. Please. Don't do that again. Thankfully, we're down to one screen now, so their options are limited on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't put something stupid past them, though.
Yeah.
That legitimately made me stop playing.
Are there like maybe people who think that that's really cool?
No.
We would have to ask people under the age of 18, and I don't think we know any.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I always liked the Pika-Mans.
Yeah, Pika-Mans are fun.
Yeah.
I put Pika-Mans in the same bucket I put Fate in. It's something I like, but I'm not super hardcore into.
Mm-hmm. Alright, let me see. We've got our announcers for PlayStation Plus for March. I'm not looking forward to these.
What if they let the Dingle Rumpus artist?
you say
You cut out
Dinglerumpus?
What about the Dinglerumpus artist? You cut out a little bit.
What if they let him design a Pokemon?
Oh, good
Okay.
God, that's going to be horrific.
I don't know how I would feel about that. I feel it kind of wouldn't mesh.
I
I
imagine
get him
all
with
of the
human-
edge.
Well, I expect that the Pokemon games are going to get weirder and weirder as time goes on. So
Yeah. I can see the Dragon Grandpa guy doing and drawing stuff for human characters. Rui's pretty good about that, but I cannot see him drawing animals.
No.
The closest animal I can think that he's drawn is a robot bear.
I don't know. He
That
kind of
is-
did the robot panther thing.
Oh, those were like kaiju.
Yeah, they
in,
were.
in Danganronpa 2.
Yeah.
They were literally made of metal blades. They were monsters.
One of them was pretty much entirely just knives. Yes.
Yeah, the eagle one.
The eagle.
So yeah, I can't see him
I
drawing
don't know,
animal
to me, it
creatures.
sounds like you're describing a Pokemon. So
There is, in fact, a bird made out of knives for Pokemon, so yes.
Yeah, there are giant machine monsters in Danganronpa 2 as a contrivance for why you can't explore some areas. They only go away at the end of certain trials.
They don't do
It's
a
very
whole lot
strange.
otherwise.
You never interact with them directly unless you play the little mini game for them, but that's in a totally separate menu.
Yeah, you don't even need to do that. Alright, so, games we're getting for PlayStation Plus is in March. Call of Duty
Yep.
Modern Warfare Remastered.
Yep.
Yay.
And we get the Blowhard game. I think is his latest one, The Witness.
I think so, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
going to say something that's probably going to cause everybody's head to implode. I didn't
What?
like Braid.
It was an okay video game. I
bought
didn't
it,
get
I never played it.
Eh,
It just didn't look cool.
no, it's not.
it
It's
fits
pretentious
squarely in the
RC
box.
bullcrap.
Yeah. It's in the box of it was okay and fun to play, but it wasn't as good as the critics made it out to be. Same
No.
box as like Undertale and stuff.
Yeah.
Anything by Phil Fish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was okay. Don't feel like I wasted my time, but would not play again.
no. So, yeah, not good. Not good. And that's it. So-
And yeah. However, there are two wonderful games, and maybe a third. I don't know anything about Just Cause 4.
Just
that are
Cause 4,
getting
no. Just Cause 4. Oh, hang on. Yeah, no. Just Cause 4 is a new one, and it's not very good.
okay. So two wonderful games going on deep discount. Yakuza Kiwami 2, which you should have Yakuza Kiwami 1 if you've been a PS Plus subscriber, is going 40% off. And Hollow Knight Void Heart Edition will be 50% off, which means it's $750. $750. If you haven't bought Hollow Knight and supported Team Cherry yet, you can surely throw them $750 for a 40-hour experience that's really, really good and well polished. Do it.
Do it now.
Yeah, also give the Yakuza guys some money because I would like to see more stuff localized.
Just some more of their complete and utter nonsense.
Yes.
I
I would really like... Yeah. I would really, really like the Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 HD remasters to come over to the West. So I don't have to YouTube them before I play 6. So please give them money.
just give them your money.
Yeah, just hand it over. You don't even need to buy the game. Just go up to Japan and give them your money.
Just look for a hostess club with a very grumpy looking man out front.
In a white suit with a red shirt.
Yes. Or alternatively, the guy with the Python pattern jacket and the eye patch. Just run away from him.
Yeah, leopard print jacket with an eye patch with a knife. You can give your money to him too. Actually, he'll probably just take it.
You'll
To
just
be
take
fair,
it.
he'll save you the trouble. But yes, both those games are very, very good. I've harped on about them quite a bit the last little bit, and they just happen to be going on sale.
Yep.
So yeah, I won't say anything more about those games since I've already talked about them quite a bit.
Yes. I can't think of anything else worth talking about.
Oh, what else do we have? We can do a bleep bloop since Vols mentioned it a few times.
All right.
The PS4 Western launch for the Phoenix Wright trilogy has been announced, and it has a few new features that I didn't know were in there off the top of my head because I already played these games and wouldn't look that close at it. And by features, I mean basic convenience that you're going to be very happy is there. So they are coming out. Had it.
Lost it.
I lost April 9th. April 9th. So that's for the PC on Steam, Switch, PS4, and Xbone.
Yeah.
And the trilogy will be there. The key features that are being added or improved or made easier to access in the game are, let's see here. You can save during trials and quickly load.
Yay! Quick save.
Yes. And for some of the loop-de-loop logic, and there's 2 or 3 trials in the first 3 Phoenix Wright games that you are just going to tear your hair out over, because following Phoenix's logic on this, you have to be lucky to land on the right track, and then you have to twist your brain in knots to follow it and stay on that track. There's a couple of them that are pretty bad. Well, more like certain sections of it, but you're going to be very happy that save feature's there, so you do not have to chew through the entire courtroom segment again when you get owned. Yep. And, you now have multiple save slots. So, if you have other people that want to play the game, I think there was 2 in the DS games? Can't remember. The DS ports of the GBA games.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2.
Yeah, so you have 10 now. If you want to play with other people, you can actually play with other people, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And, the investigation screen has been cleaned up. They're doing some stuff for that. The present evidence screen is being cleaned up. That's very good. Because it's kind of it's a little buried in sub-menus. Stuff like that.
It's a bit messy.
So it will be, you will be very happy these little changes are there, and you will not have to suffer through, like those of us that played the original trilogy on the DS over here, and the DS ports. Those were, even those had some conveniences, but nothing quite this nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're very good. Well, yeah. 1 is a setup. 2 is hit and miss. The last trial's pretty good. It has some trials that are iffy. And the 3rd game's pretty much all good, with 1, 4, and 5 standing out as the best trials in that game. But as usual, 3rd trial syndrome is a thing. The 3rd trial is usually the worst in every single game, or at least near the bottom. So be aware of that. Yeah. You have to get over the midway point, which will be a pretty big hump. So, that's the thing. That's the doop-de-doo. We have a date.
Okay. I think that's everything then.
Yeah, I do not see anything else. Nope. You got anything?
Nope. Let's wrap up then.
All right.
Alrighty. Y'all can figure out your email topic of the week. Next time I see an email, I will make one. This is the new rule. You have to give me an email if you want an email topic of the week. I'll only give them on weeks we get emails. You have to show me you love me. Or you should show us you love us anyway. In fact, just love one of us and I'll give you one.
Okay.
Before you take this to an any weirder place, let's close this out.
Alright. Closing comments, go.
What is time? What even is it?
Archsheriff Shinjuku is a liar when he says that the odds of a rider using a motorcycle are vanishingly small.
Yeah. Let's just let him have his delusion there, shall we?
Yep.
Before things get golden.
Oh dear. Yep. Yeah. I'm going to have to figure out how to operate even better on sleep than I have been. I'm getting better. Getting better on no sleep, but I'm still not quite perfect at it yet. So, let's see. I think that's everything. I think we're going to head out, folks. We'll see y'all next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.